Hi, this is Redbeard Pirate Radio, and I am Redbeard Pirate Radio's geopolitical analyst, Wild Bill. And I'm going to tell you a story today, which may have a point for today and the future. But the story starts long, long ago, and you probably won't know it this way. You'll have heard a different twisted account that makes bad guys out to be good guys, and guys that weren't doing anything but minding their own business out to be bad guys. That's the way media works. The media is skewed, and there are reasons for it. It's called editorial bias. And there are reasons for it that don't have anything to do with being good to you as a consumer. They just want you to consume, and they don't care how they manipulate you to get you to do it. They don't care if they cause a revolution as long as their sponsors make money. I'm not kidding. This is true. All right, so let's start off with a story. This is a geopolitical story for you folks who aren't interested in international relations. This will be boring. How could Wild Bill be boring? Well, I think every one of you could say, yeah, Wild Bill is boring. Yeah. But here's a point worth making, and if you don't want to stick around for it, hey, go buy your news from somebody who'll lie to you instead of somebody who'll tell you the truth. So, here's a tale. We had a thing, and I think it was called the Honest John, all right? It was our very first major strategic missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, the bugaboo of the Cold War, right? Yeah. So what did we do with it? Well, we made economic agreements in Turkey, and they allowed us to plant nuclear missiles on the Russian border. Yeah, on the borders of the Soviet Union. Right. Someplace we wouldn't like it, but we thought it was okay if we did it to the Soviets. Naturally, they got upset. Heck, America has just said it's not a matter of balance of power anymore. It's we can do whatever we want and you have to suck it up. And they were like, no. If anybody's going to be like that, it's the international revolution, or whatever Stalin called his latest iteration of doing whatever I want. And here's what happened. Nikita Khrushchev, which is how you say his name. Everybody says Khrushchev because the Russian X, Kha. Some people say Ka, it's true. But in general, it's Kha. Khrushchev. Right, Shcha is a letter. At any rate, he was faced with internal disunity because there were nuclear missiles on the border of the Soviet Union. He had promised to protect his people. How can you protect your people if your enemy has nuclear missiles on your border? Well, you can't. So he would have to find an alternate strategy. Doggone if he didn't. He talked to Fidel Castro. And just like we had offered Turkey financial advantage for doing something really stupid, like letting us put nuclear missiles on our territory, which couldn't end well for Turkey, right? Nikita Khrushchev talked the very, very cash-strapped Cuban government under Fidel Castro into allowing the Soviet Union to place nuclear-tipped missiles in Cuba that could reach Florida. Tit for tat, right? Exactly. Except we had our missiles already on the Russian border, the Soviet Union's border, and the Soviet Union had to react and then put missiles 80 miles away from our border, and those missiles weren't very long range. That 80 miles was significant. It meant they couldn't hit Washington, D.C. So we freaked the blank out. We freaked out. Oh, nuclear war. People running around, literally running around in circles because the press wanted to stir them up. There's a reason for that. I'll tell you later why. So what happened was Kennedy got on the phone to Khrushchev, and they argued. And there was all this posturing and playing games of military chicken in the Caribbean. Oh, yeah. And in the North Sea. Oh, yeah. And in the Sea of Okhotsk, which nobody ever talks about because it's not interesting to know that they're only reacting to us. It's more interesting to present it as if they've threatened us. But it wasn't. They were reacting to us to our stupid, boneheaded move of threatening our major opponent economically and politically with nuclear destruction whenever we felt like it. There wasn't even a process anymore. We could just do it. And the Soviets said one of two things, right? Hey, it's everybody or nobody, or hey, I can do that too. And then look what happened in America. We freaked out. So what do you think happened in Russia when we put missiles in Turkey? They freaked out too. That's the way that goes. And their press stirred them up to a warlike frenzy. And our press stirred us up to a warlike frenzy. And their press says, look how evil the Americans are. And our press says, look at these Russian bastards who just did this without any provocation. How dare they? When we provoked them. That's how the press lies to you. That's why I talk about the press lying all the time. It lies all the time. It can't. When you hire a congenital liar to tell a story, that congenital liar now gets reinforced with the knowledge that telling that lie benefits him or her. And so they'll keep doing it. They'll never stop. Now you've turned the switch. It can't be rethrown again. You can't turn it off. Yeah. If you don't know what I mean by congenital liar, research Vincent K. McMahon. He is the world's greatest liar. His whole life is a lie. Everything he says is a lie. Everything comes out of his face is a lie. And you guys believe him. He went up in front of the Congress and says, my people don't do steroids, and I would never let anyone do steroids. Have you ever seen the muscles on that guy? Yeah, he's jacked. And you know why? Because he worked out while he was injured, which is how you build those muscles. Yeah, you overwork them, and you take steroids to reduce inflammation so you're not laying in bed like this, so you can continue to do that. And that's why anabolic steroids were used in sports. And what anabolic steroids do to you? All that extra muscle mass forces your heart to grow. And a bigger, stronger heart pumps harder. And your blood vessels aren't made for that. So you start seeping blood out into your body. It's called edema. And it's also called COPD. And it's why so many wrestlers die so young. They die in their 40s, 50s, and 60s instead of 60s, 70s, and 80s like the rest of us. Yeah, and that's why. So, talking about the lie, that's why I want to tell you this. And he stood in front of the car and said, I would never do that. I'm a good guy. I'm a carnival owner. WWE is a carnival. I mean, if you've ever gone to a carnival, you would know. It's all lies and glitz and glitter, and nothing's true. Yeah. And you guys suspend disbelief at the wrong time and buy into it. So here's what happened. The Soviet Union got a phone call on the hotline. What do you want? He's President Kennedy. Nikita, President Kennedy called you. American rock star called you. And Nikita gets on the phone and says, what do you want? I'm busy right now, getting blowjob or whatever I do. And Kennedy says, well, man, you got missiles in our place. My people are going crazy. You're going to have to take them off. And Nikita Khrushchev said, of course I will, comrade. You just take the missiles out of Turkey. I will remove those missiles like that. You can trust me. Look at my record. I'm not like you. So, eventually, that's what happened. We presented it as a great diplomatic and a military victory for America, but it isn't that. It was a backroom deal where we agreed to remove those missiles from Turkey. And the Soviet Union closed down its project and left. How about that? How about that? Stuff you didn't know. So how do you think Turkey feels about us? Wow. Turkey doesn't trust us because we can't be trusted. We promised Turkey we would protect it forever and give it financial preference forever for letting us put nuclear bombs in Turkey. Germany doesn't like it. I'll tell you what, ask the Germans. Japan doesn't want nukes in Japan. Ask them. Well, they want their own. They don't want ours. So what happened was Turkey and the other Balkan nations are all convinced that you can't trust the European powers. You can't trust Russia, and you can't trust the United States, because all of us have been caught lying again and again and again, supporting one nation against another until it no longer suits us, and then supporting that nation against the other. You know, okay. I have a lot to say about this, and I don't want it to get too long. There's so much to talk about foreign policy, what happened in Iraq. It all comes to bear on all this. what's happening in Africa right now. This is all coming to bear on this. This is international policy, strategic policy on the part of the United States, the great European nations, the Russian Federation, China, Pakistan, Japan. These guys can't be trusted. We can't be trusted either. Nations lie and cheat and steal. Because we all elect or allow to come to high positions of power congenital liars. That is 100% the case. If you hired truthers, this stuff wouldn't happen. But no, we get, oh, we can't tell the truth because of national security. No one will know that I did this until after I'm dead. That's all that means. That's all that's for. Protecting the guilty. Doesn't protect the innocent. The innocent need to know. The victims need to know. A lot of the victims will want retribution, and well, you can't let them have retribution. I get retribution, but you don't get retribution. See what I mean? It's so inequitous. No world can be run like that. If you're a nation, then you respect the other nations. And if they're respecting you and you're respecting them, none of this bullshit ever happens. So, just want to point out to you that we caused the situation in Turkey. We caused it 70 years ago, and 60 years ago, and 50 years ago. And the European nations had caused it 110 years ago. Oh yeah. The Turks learned very young that you can't trust any major power because they just lie, cheat, and steal. If you want a little bit of backup, try going online. Instead of watching porn, which is a lot of fun, I know, though it dehydrates, remember to hydrate. And electrolytes, because if you hydrate without electrolytes, you're going to disperse your electrolyte balance and you're not going to feel well. So if you're hydrating, also drink electrolytes. Paula Banichowski used to bring me Gatorade just to keep me from sweating myself out and overhydrating. Thanks, Paula, you rock. So, why I wanted to present this to you is because I want you to realize that the news doesn't want you to learn anything. It just wants to move you up and down and up and down an emotional roller coaster. When you're way up or way down, they're going to show you commercials for goods you don't need. And you're going to buy them. Or you're much more likely to buy them. Because studies that were done in the 50s and 60s and 70s showed clearly that a person who is upset or unstable in an unstable emotional situation or state is much more likely to make a bad financial decision. And that's what buying sponsored goods is. That's what buying a new car is if you don't need one. Yeah. That's what buying the latest fad good is. So anyway, I'm going to read this quick, and then I probably won't record it because look how long I ran on just trying to explain the background. But when we see Turkey buzzing the Greek premier's helicopter, yeah, we forget that we were doing it 2 weeks ago. Yeah, in the Med. We're flying P-8 Orions close to the border of the Soviet Union, and their fighters are coming out and going, yeah, in front of us to scare shit out of us. It does. It does. And we do the same thing to them in other places, like off the West Coast, where the Soviets patrol their electronic intelligence gathering planes, just like our P-8 Orions. They have intelligence gathering Bear bombers and other ones. And they're patrolling up and down, trying to figure out if we're going to launch missiles at them, trying to figure out if we're sending too much military traffic their way, because that'll be indicative that there might be some hanky-panky going on that they got to stop. And you can go to YouTube. You will find exactly Cold War footage showing us do that exact same thing, buzzing an enemy patrol bomber or an electronic intelligence gathering ELINT aircraft. And watch us do those exact same maneuvers. The aircraft moves close. It waggles its wings so you can see its arm that can shoot you down if you cross the national boundary line, the territorial waters of the United States or the Soviet Union. Right? Yeah. And then it flies away in a great blaze, look how cool I am, which is all the leeway that jet pilot gets, because being a jet pilot, it ain't exciting, except in the holy mackerel way, because that's what it's like being a jet pilot. You are closely monitored and strictly controlled every second of every flight, or else you'd cause a crash, you'd cause a wreck, you'd collide, you'd smash up a carrier. Come on now. These guys are the most highly anal people ever lived. Because when you take off a carrier deck, you now got 9 different things to do before you can even grab the stick and keep going. Because you got to set flaps, you got to set ailerons, you got to do your trim tab, you got to do all this stuff, and it isn't automatic because your aircraft is different every time. Nowadays, they have what they now call fly-by-wire, and that's not what it is. Again, your press doesn't teach you anything. FBW, fly-by-wire, all it means is you went from mechanical linked controls to your rudders and stuff to having electronic servos. So when you do this, an electrical signal goes instead of a real mechanical linkage. That's all FBW means. But they now say, oh, it's electronically computer controlled. No, it's not. That's CCV. CCV is when you have a computer that's got a model of the aircraft's aerodynamics, and it allows for every input that the pilot makes. And if it's a really good system, when the aircraft is damaged or in an asymmetrical state, that it will compensate by making the control surfaces do less or do more. So you can make the same motions, you'll seem to make the same control motions, but really there's like a vast number of corrections going on at a given time just to make it possible for you to do that and not go tumbling it like this across the sky. So Turkey's just doing what she learned from us. In the Med, right where she can see it. Yeah. And Turkey's just doing what she learned from Russia, right there in the Med where she can see it. And Turkey's doing just what she learned from us when we put nuclear missiles in Turkey, that the powers can't be trusted and they lie to you. And they just want to get their way, and that's all they want. They want you to like hold still while they bend you over and take your clothes off. That's all. They got no other purpose. They don't care about you at all. Think about it. Nations don't respect one another because they cheat and they lie and they steal and they do cyber attacks and they do all this stuff. Those are signs that your neighbor doesn't like you. Those are signs that your neighbor can't be trusted. Those are signs that you fell in with the wrong people. And Turkey, now at last, recognizes that she fell in with the wrong people. Google the Balkan Wars and you will see where I'm coming from. It's 110 years ago. There it was, clear as a bell. European powers and European money destabilizing Turkey and Greece and trying to make them go to war against one another. Because somebody would make a lot of money if that happened. And that's all the media is for, is making their sponsors a lot of money. It has no other purpose. It would disappear if we stopped buying goods. Fox would disappear if we stopped buying Fox-sponsored goods. And NBC would disappear. CNN would disappear if we stopped buying their goods. So if you don't like Fox, boycott its products. Look at the products it's selling you. Boycott them. That's all. You have voted with your wallet. That's the most effective vote that a human being can make anywhere in the world at any time. And if you don't like NBC, or if you don't like CNN, or if you don't like ABC, or whoever, right? I call the main media, the illusory division between the media, I call it Fox and anti-Fox. But no matter what side you're on of this illusory divide, where they all get together and snort coke and hire hookers to do wild things for them at the end of the day, because that's the kind of people they are. Lying, cheating, asshole criminals. All of them, all the owners are. Come on now. Come on now. Put a camera on you all day. No, I don't think you're going to do that. Yeah. Because you do reality TV where you fake people into thinking that they're seeing something real. You don't do anything real. Because if you did, you'd be educating. And your job is to keep people dumb so they buy your sponsor goods. They realize that they don't realize that they're being manipulated emotionally to buy goods they don't need. And that's what the whole thing's about. I urge you all to stop watching the media. I urge you to go online anyway and to start Googling these episodes and these issues that you care about. And then look at both sides of every story, because you're not going to find the truth on one side or the other. I know you think you are, because it's easier. And that means you're lazy. True story. You're too lazy. So instead of being lazy, educate yourself. Lift yourself out of that hole that they're keeping you, where you just buy these mindless garbage goods that you're never going to need because you were excited seeing puppies or turkeys being warlike, and suddenly you're angry. And now on comes a commercial for buy the Super Sucker. It's this giant vacuum cleaner looking thing that costs $115, which will make it seem lesser by telling you it's only 3 payments of $38.88. And what's it do? It gives you these bags. You put your clothes in and it sucks all the air out of those bags, so you can put those clothes that are this wide into a bag this wide and hang it in your closet. So what happens when you run out of bags? That's what I mean. They don't want to teach you nothing. They just want you to consume mindlessly, stupidly. And you're falling for it. So research the topics yourself, both sides, and then decide how you feel, not based on how your favorite news anchor says it, because he's not educated. That's not his job to understand. His job is to read from a teleprompter that somebody else wrote. Why would you think these people have any mandate to tell you the truth? Where did you get that impression from? From buying into lies. It's time to stop buying into lies. Wild Bill. Ooh, let me go turn this off.